So, dear friend, today we will discuss the anatomy of the thyroid gland. As you know, thyroid gland is an endocrine gland and is one of the endocrine gland of our endocrine orchestra. This thyroid gland present in the neck, in front of the trachea, and by the side of the trachea and by the side of the larynx here. Okay, you are seeing this is the larynx, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and these are the tracheal rings here. So this is here present in front of the trachea, inside of the trachea, and by the side of the larynx. If you see the diagram here, this is the thyroid cartilage. This is the thyroid cartilage. And this is the cricoid cartilage here. Because the cricoid cartilage is articulate with the thyroid cartilage. Okay, these are the tracheal rings. This is the first tracheal ring. This is the second tracheal ring. This is the third tracheal ring. This is the fourth tracheal ring. And this is the fifth tracheal ring. Okay, this is the sixth tracheal ring. I am drawing this tracheal ring. Why? Because this thyroid gland extends up to the fifth or the sixth tracheal ring here. This is the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. The thyroid lamina is the oblique cartilage, oblique line. Okay. Now this thyroid gland extends, okay, here from the oblique line up to the sixth cartilage. Okay, here it descends downward to second, and this is it turns here. Okay, so this is here. So this thyroid gland extends from the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage, descends downward up to the fifth to sixth tracheal rings here, the lowermost part of the lobe here, and this here the isthmus. Isthmus extends second, third, and the fourth tracheal ring here. There. And if you see behind here, suppose this is the fifth cervical vertebra. This is the sixth cervical vertebra. This is the seventh cervical vertebra, and this is the T1. Okay. So this thyroid gland passes or present in front of the C5, C6, C7 and the T1 vertebra, thoracic vertebra. So this is the simple orientation of the thyroid gland, how the thyroid gland extends here. Clear? Now, this thyroid gland is a unique gland because it has three features which is different from all the endocrine gland. One, this thyroid gland is it synthesizes the hormone, store the hormone, and when need arises, release this hormone, the thyroid hormone. Okay, first. Second thing, this is the only gland which depends for the thyroid hormone synthesis and the secretion for the external environment source. Okay, external source, because iodine is we have to take iodine in the food, and this iodine is used for the synthesis of the thyroglobulin, iodide, thyroid iodide, okay, and for the thyroid hormone. Third thing is here, this thyroid gland is highly vascular gland. Okay, and vascularity is comparable to the adrenal gland and the kidney because as much as vascular here. So these are the three unique features of the thyroid gland. Now, what about the thyroid gland? If you see, this whole thyroid gland is covered by the capsule. Okay, there are the two types of the capsule. One is the true capsule, one is the false capsule. True capsule is made up of the condensation of the stroma, fibrous stroma of the thyroid gland here, which is here just so this is surface of the gland here. That is known as the true capsule. What about the false capsule? False capsule is the covering of the cervical fascia, deep cervical fascia. When deep cervical fascia passes over the trachea here, okay, this ascends upward and split into the two layer and cover the whole thyroid gland. And when this reaches superiorly here, this cervical fascia, pretracheal fascia, it ascends upward, attached in the midline to the superiorly, there is the thyroid bone here. Okay, so this is the thyroid bone. These are the small cornu. Okay, so superiorly it is attached to the thyroid bone, and on the side, by the side, here it is attached to the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. Okay, inferiorly, this capsule, the false capsule, descends downward and reaches towards the pretracheal fascia, pretracheal this ring, and this enters into the thoracic cavity and merges with the apex of the fibrous pericardium. Now, this false capsule in the region of the medial side here, okay, here on the medial side, it is attached to the here cricoid cartilage. It is thickened here. It is attached to the cricoid cartilage in the form of the thick band. This is known ligament of Berry. This ligament of Berry is attached to the cricoid cartilage, okay, medial side of the thyroid gland here, and superiorly we have seen this is attached. So what's happened now, when the larynx moves, this thyroid gland also moves because this thyroid gland is attached to the cricoid cartilage and thyroid cartilage. So that's why it is said, it is explainable when the larynx moves, thyroid swellings and the thyroid gland also move due to the attachment of the false capsule at the cricoid cartilage in the form of the Berry's ligament and here the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. Okay, now what are present between the false capsule and the true capsule? There are certain structure present in the false capsule. One is the parathyroid glands. Okay, parathyroid glands present between the false capsule and the true capsule here. Second thing is that the arteries when enters, it from the plexus here, it appears as the false capsule, then traverses between the false capsule and the true capsule here. So it present between the false capsule and the true capsule here. Then the venous plexus do not present between the false capsule and the true capsule. It is present deep to the true capsule here. Okay, because this is the difference between the prostate gland and the thyroid gland. In the prostate gland here, what's happened? The venous plexus present between the true capsule and the false capsule. While in the thyroid gland, it is present deep to the true capsule here. Okay, so only the two structure, the parathyroid gland present between the true and false capsule, and the arteries which pierces the false capsule and enters into the true capsule. So these are the structure which present between the false capsule and the true capsule. Now come on the structure of this thyroid gland here. This whole thyroid gland is made up of the two lobes and the connecting isthmus here. Okay, here. Look here. Suppose this is these are the lobe. Okay, here, like this. So these are the two lobes, almost pyramidal in shape, connected by the isthmus. So this gland looks like H shape or the butterfly shape here. Okay, and this whole gland has a 25 gram in weight. Okay, and this weight, the size of the thyroid gland increases in the female, especially in the menstruation and the pregnancy, to increase the metabolism of the body here. So this is the general layout of the thyroid gland. Now come on the each part. What are the lobes and the isthmus here? First come the lobe here. Each lobe is made up of, okay, each lobe is roughly pyramidal in shape, like this, okay, here, which has the apex and the base inferiorly, has the medial surface and the anterolateral surface and the posterolateral surface, because it has only two borders, anterior border and the posterior border. Look here, this is the anterior border and the posterior border. So according to that, it should have the two surface, medial surface and the lateral surface. But here, what's happened? The lateral surface is divided into the anterolateral surface and posterolateral surface, because there is the ill-defined borders here. Okay, so some part of the lateral surface faces anteriorly and laterally, some part of the lateral surface faces posteriorly and the laterally. So it is divided posterolateral surface. So there are the two border, anterior border, posterior border, three surface, medial surface, anterolateral surface and the posterolateral surface. One is apex, one is the base here. Okay, now come one by one. Okay, first is the apex here. Apex extends up to the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. So look here, this is the thyroid cartilage. Column. This thyroid cartilage, and this is the cricoid cartilage, which articulate with the thyroid cartilage here. Okay, and these are the rings, tracheal rings. First ring, second ring, third ring, fourth ring, and the fifth ring. Okay. And this is the trachea, and here behind there is the pharynx and the esophagus is starting. Okay, this is the oblique line. Okay, now gland extend here. Okay. Okay, so this is here the lobe, one lobe of the thyroid gland here, which is the apex. Now apex is sandwiched between the inferior constrictor muscles of the pharynx, which arises from the oblique line here, extend up to the cricoid cartilage here. So it has the cricoid part and the thyroid part. Okay. So this is the inferior constrictor muscle, and here the sternothyroid muscle inside here. Okay, at the oblique line here. Okay, if you draw the cut section of diagram here, so suppose this is the thyroid cartilage, this is the cricoid cartilage, and this is the hyoid bone. Okay, here. So look here. Here is the origin of the inferior constrictor muscle from the thyroid cartilage and the cricoid cartilage here. And here is the insertion of the sternothyroid muscle. Okay, at the oblique line, and from the oblique line here, this is the hyoid bone. Okay, and from the oblique line here, this is the thyroid muscle. Okay, so this is the thyroid muscle, which are attached from the hyoid bone, arises from the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage here. So what's happened now? Look here. Here, this is the apex of the thyroid gland here, and this apex is always between the inferior constrictor muscle here. This is the inferior constrictor, This is the sternothyroid muscle here. Okay, so here. Now it's important to understand here, at this apex here, there is a entry of the superior thyroid artery. Okay, and deep medial side of the apex, there is the external laryngeal nerve. Means this superior thyroid artery when descends downward towards the apex here. Before that here, this external laryngeal nerve runs along with the artery here. But at the apex here, it deviates from the superior thyroid artery and reaches towards the medial side of the apex, and the superior thyroid artery passes lateral side of the apex. So here it is diverted. So it is very important to understand, because during the thyroid surgery, surgeon ligate the superior thyroid artery near to the apex, not the away from the apex. Suppose away we tie the superior thyroid artery, we have to accidentally tie this external laryngeal nerve. Clear? So always tie the superior thyroid artery or ligate the artery just near to the apex of the thyroid gland here. So this is the apex. Okay. Now what about the base here? Okay. Base is here, reaches up to the 5th or 6th tracheal ring here. Descends downward here. Base is large here. Clear? And this base here is related to the inferior thyroid artery. It's very important here. This is the subclavian artery here. Okay. This subclavian artery here gives rise to the thyrocervical trunk. Okay. And this thyrocervical trunk gives rise to the inferior thyroid artery, which form a loop at the base of the thyroid gland here. Okay, form a loop at the base of the posterior side here. And this base is important because this loop here, above the loop or maybe below the loop. Okay, there is a variation in the inferior parathyroid gland. Inferior parathyroid gland either may be above the loop or below the loop. First. Okay. Second is here, this at the loop here, there is a recurrent laryngeal nerve passes either anterior to the loop or either posterior to the loop. Okay. Either we can say that deep. Okay, deep, or means posterior to the loop, or either superficial or the anterior to the loop. So this very important relation occur at the base with the inferior thyroid artery here. So same now here what's happened in the thyroid surgery, we have to ligate the inferior thyroid artery away from the base here. Okay, because at the base this recurrent laryngeal nerve and the inferior thyroid artery is very near to each other. So always ligate the artery during thyroid surgery away from the base. Okay, here it is just near the superior thyroid artery, ligate just near to the apex here. So this is difference occurs. So this is very important relation at the base with the inferior thyroid artery and the recurrent laryngeal nerve and the superior parathyroid gland here. Clear? So this is the base here. Clear? Now come on the borders. What about the borders? Borders are anterior border and the posterior border. Okay, here. Suppose this is the gland. Okay, here. So suppose this is the anterior border on the anterior side here. Okay. Here you can see here this is the anterior border and this is the posterior border. Clear? What about the anterior border here? Okay, anterior border here, what are the structure runs in the anterior border? Clear? Suppose this is a superior thyroid artery here. Superior thyroid artery gives rise to an anterior branch, anterior descending branch. It descends along the anterior border. Okay, which anastomose with the this is the inferior thyroid artery. Okay. This inferior thyroid artery gives the ascending branch towards the anterior border and anastomose with the descending branch of the superior thyroid artery. So this is the one important relation with the anterior border. Clear? This is here. Now, what about the posterior border here? On the posterior border is very important. Posterior border, look here, this is the gland. on the posterior side. Yes. Okay, here. This is the posterior border, two posterior border. This is the superior thyroid artery. Superior thyroid artery continues on the posterior border and anastomose with the inferior thyroid artery here. Okay, along the posterior border here. Clear? Here. This is the anterior border here. Comes, suppose. Okay. So this along the posterior border here, the anastomosis occurs the remaining of the superior thyroid artery, or we can say the posterior branch of the superior thyroid artery descends along the posterior border and anastomose with the inferior thyroid artery. First. Second thing here, along the posterior border, okay, there is the presence of the superior parathyroid gland and the inferior parathyroid gland. Okay, superior and the inferior. Superior parathyroid gland is here, is fixed. It is present at the level of the here, the cricoid cartilage. Okay, along the just here, along the cricoid cartilage. While the inferior parathyroid gland is variable here. Position is variable. I told you here there is a loop of the inferior parathyroid artery. Okay, so this inferior parathyroid gland either present below the loop or above the loop. Okay, here. And this is present between the false capsule and the true capsule. Yes, I already told you between the false capsule and the true capsule, both superior and inferior parathyroid. So this is here present. And also on the left side here, along the posterior border, okay, here there is a duct is there. Okay, here. This duct is there along on the left side here. This is the thoracic duct on the left side here, along the posterior border. So this is only on the left side. Clear? So these are the relation on the anterior and posterior borders. What about the surfaces? Okay, come on the surfaces. What are the relation on the medial surface and anterolateral surface and the posterior surface? Just draw the diagram. Okay, look here. This is the trachea. Okay, behind the trachea there is the esophagus. Okay, here. This is the gland. This is the gland. Okay, here. And this gland is covered by this is the true capsule first. This is very near to the gland. Cover whole gland here. Okay, here. This is the false capsule, okay, which is the extension of the pretracheal fascia. This is the pretracheal fascia here. Okay, this is the dark blue color. This is the extension of the false capsule over the posterior surface and the anterior surface and the medial surface here. Okay, here. So this is the false capsule here. Okay, this false capsule is, I told you, extension of the pretracheal fascia. Now at the cricoid cartilage level, this false capsule is attached to the cricoid cartilage with a thickening. Okay, the thickening, and this thickening is known as the Berry's ligament or the ligament of Berry. Okay, here. Ligament of Berry. Okay, here this is very important because behind the Berry's ligament here, there is the hiccular-laryngeal nerve passes here, just behind. Sometimes it passes through the ligament, okay, pierces the ligament. Mostly it is passes behind this Berry's ligament, this cricoid cartilage, or this is the hiccular-laryngeal nerve here. Okay, now here, this is the medial surface, this is the anterolateral surface, this is the posterolateral surface. Now what are the structure on the anterolateral surface? Look here. On the anterolateral surface, first it is covered by the skin, superficial fascia, then the deep fascia, and deep to the deep fascia here, there is the muscle, okay, sternocleidomastoid muscle here. Okay, on the both sides. Okay, here. Due to the sternocleidomastoid muscle, this is the sternothyroid muscle and this is the sternohyoid muscle. Okay, and here deep to here, this is the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle. Okay, so here are the three muscles just anterolateral to this gland. This is the sternothyroid muscle, this is the sternohyoid muscle, the superior belly omoid. Outside here, this is the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, yeah, and this is the false capsule. This false capsule reaches toward the, because the D fascia, so this D fascia passes, split into the two layer and cover the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, on the both sides. Yeah, and this is here on the same sternothyroid muscle, sternohyoid muscle, and this is the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle. Clear? So these are the relation of the anterolateral aspect: skin, superficial fascia, deep fascia here. Clear? And the muscles. Now, what about the posterolateral surface? This is a posterolateral surface. Posterolateral surface, there is the carotid sheath. Okay, here this carotid sheath is the extension of the deep cervical fascia. Okay, inside the carotid sheath here, there is the carotid, external carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. Okay, here, and in between this here and towards the posterior layer of the sheath, there is a vagus nerve. Okay, and behind the carotid sheath there is a sympathetic trunk. Okay, and further behind the sympathetic trunk here is the prevertebral fascia. Okay, here the vertebrae will come, prevertebral fascia. So the posterolateral surface related to the carotid sheath cover the external carotid artery, internal jugular vein, vagus nerve. Behind there is a sympathetic trunk, and behind the prevertebral fascia. So these are the posterolateral relations. Medial relations, medial surface relation. Okay, here on the medial surface. What are the structure on the medial surface? On the medial surface, there are the two structure. Okay, two cartilages, two tubes. Okay, two muscle and the two nerves. Okay, what are these? First, the cartilages. Two cartilages, the thyroid cartilage and the cricoid cartilage on the medial side. Okay, here. Then the two muscles. What are the muscle? One is the inferior constrictor muscle, which arises from the oblique line, passes posteriorly deep to this medial surface here. I told you here. Okay, and the cricothyroid muscle. This is the cricoid, from cricoid to the thyroid muscle here. Okay, thyroid cartilage. Okay, so cricothyroid muscle. Then the larynx. Okay, larynx and the trachea anteriorly, posteriorly pharynx and the esophagus comes on the posterior side here. Okay, so these is structure on the medial surface, related to the medial surface. Then the two nerves are there. One is the external laryngeal nerve, comes on the medial surface. I told you come on the medial surface. At the apex it passes on the medial surface. And the recurrent laryngeal nerve ascends upward between the trachea and the esophagus. Esophageotracheal groove ascends upward, reaches to the medial surface of this thyroid gland here. Clear? So these are the external laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal. So two structures are there: thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, larynx and the trachea, pharynx and the esophagus, inferior constrictor muscle, cricothyroid muscle, external laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal. So these are the structure on the medial surface of this gland. Clear? So these are the relation on the lobe, thyroid lobe here. If you see the dimension of the gland, okay, whole dimension here, the whole gland is 5 centimeter in vertical height here. Okay, suppose you draw the diagram here. Okay, here. So 5 centimeter here. Okay, here in the height and the 3 centimeter width here, side to side here. Okay. 3 centimeter width and thickness, anterior posterior thickness is about 2 centimeter. Okay, so this is the overall dimension of the lobe, we can say the lobe. Okay, Now, come on the isthmus. What about the isthmus? Okay, isthmus is about 1.5 centimeter. Okay, 1.5 centimeter. Height is 1.5 centimeter and the breadth is 1.5 centimeter. Okay, equal dimension. Yeah. Now, what are the relation? This isthmus connect, I told you, connect the two lobes. Okay, to form the H-shaped gland. Now, this is the isthmus has the upper border, lower border, anterior surface and the posterior surface. Clear? Now, what about the relation of the upper border and the lower border? Suppose this is the lobe. Okay, so these are the lobes. Okay, now what about on the upper lobe? Okay, upper border. On the upper border, in the midline here, okay, there is the one elevation there. This is known as the pyramidal lobe. Pyramidal lobe. Okay, one elevation. At the elevation here, there is a fibrous band, is musculofibrous band is there, which is ascends from the pyramidal lobe up to the thyroid bone here. This is known as the levator glanduli thyroid. Glanduli thyroid. Okay, this is a levator glanduli thyroid. What is this? This is a fibrous, musculofibrous extension here made up of the striated muscle ascends upward. This is not a part of the gland, but it is a, when the gland descends downward here, this structure remains as a fibrous cord or the muscular cord. So this is levator glanduli thyroid. It is attached to the pyramidal lobe, or if pyramidal lobe is absent, it is directly attached to the upper border. Clear? So this is the two structure. Third structure is here. Is the anastomosis between the anterior branch, the medial side, middle branch of the both side of the superior thyroid artery. Superior thyroid artery descends downward, remaining here, passes on the medial surface here, and reaches toward the upper border of the isthmus and anastomosis with the opposite superior thyroid artery here. Okay, here. So anastomosis. So there are three structures present on the superior border. One is the pyramidal lobe, one is the levator glanduli thyroid, and anastomosis is in the superior thyroid artery of the both side here. What about the inferior border, the lower border? On the inferior, the lower border, there is the origin of the inferior thyroid vein here. First, inferior thyroid vein descends downward and from the isthmus. Clear? Second is here, there is a supply of the artery which comes from the brachiocephalic trunk or the arch of aorta directly, and this artery is known as the thyroidia ima artery. This is the thyroidia ima artery. Okay, thyroidia ima artery here. This is here. So there are the two structures related to the inferior border of the isthmus. What about the anterior surface and the posterior surface? Anterior surface here is covered by the skin and the superficial fascia, then the deep fascia, and in the superficial deep fascia there is the anterior jugular vein descends downward. Clear? And deep to this deep fascia here, there is the two muscles, the sternohyoid and sternothyroid muscle. When ascends upward, it passes superior anterior to this here, the isthmus. Clear? So skin discovered by the skin, superficial fascia, then internal jugular vein, then the deep fascia, then the sternothyroid muscle and the sternohyoid muscle. Okay, so these are the structure on the anterior surface. What about the posterior surface? Posterior surface is in relation with the second, third and the fourth tracheal ring here. Okay, here. Because this is the first tracheal ring, the second, third and the fourth. That is related to the second, third and the fourth tracheal ring here. Clear? On the posterior surface of the isthmus. So these are the relation of the gland, isthmus. Okay. Now, what about the arterial supply, venous drainage, and the lymphatic drainage, and the nerve supply? Look here. It's very important to understand now here. Suppose this is the gland. Okay, here. Now what about the arteries? Okay, arteries are that the one is the superior artery. Okay, it comes from the external carotid artery, reaches to the apex here, and on the apex it divides into the anterior branch. Okay, here anterior descending branch and the posterior descending branch. Okay, here on the remaining artery, the medial side goes on the medial surface here. And then anastomosis is the opposite. Yeah. So this is superior thyroid artery. Superior thyroid artery, anterior branch, anastomosis will be here the inferior thyroid artery. Inferior thyroid artery gives rise to the here posterior. This is the branch which anastomosis with the anterior descending branch here. Okay. Now this inferior thyroid artery. Inferior thyroid artery here it comes from the thyrocervical trunk. I told you. Passes to the base, it makes a loop, okay, and it anastomoses with the posterior branch here, okay, it anastomoses with the posterior, for this posterior branch will come, it anastomoses with the posterior branch here of the anterior superior thyroid artery here, clear? So this is the inferior thyroid artery. Now this inferior thyroid artery I told you is important because here relation the inferior parathyroid artery and the related to the either the loop or the below the loop here. Okay, and also it is related to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Either recurrent laryngeal nerve passes anterior to the artery or either passes posterior to the artery. Okay, yeah. So this is the inferior parathyroid artery, and this inferior parathyroid artery comes from the. This is the subclavian artery. Subclavian artery is the thyrocervical trunk, and this thyrocervical trunk gives rise to the inferior thyroid artery. So this inferior thyroid artery supply. So these are the two main arteries. Okay. Now the third artery is here. There is the thyroidea ima artery. This thyroidea ima artery arises from the brachiocephalic trunk here. Brachiocephalic trunk gives rise to the one branch, or either it directly arises from the arch of the aorta here. Okay. So this artery comes from the either brachiocephalic trunk or arch of aorta. It reaches to the isthmus and supplies the isthmus. Clear? And the fourth type of the artery are the perforating artery. Perforating artery comes from the either the tracheal artery in the region of the trachea. Okay? Yeah, the tracheal artery, you have perforating artery, or either the behind this is the esophageal arteries. Okay? So esophageal artery supply the gland, the perforating branches. So the four types of the artery supply the gland, superior thyroid artery, by the inferior thyroid artery, okay, by the thyroidea ima artery here, and by the perforating artery. These arteries are very important because these arteries and pierces the false capsule, then the true capsule, then divide into the lobular branches. Okay, and these lobular branches are the end arteries here. Suppose this artery enters, it divides into the lobular branches here. These are different lobules of the gland. Okay, it runs in the interlobular septa, and this one lobular artery, okay, here one lobular artery supply around 50 to 60 follicles, thyroid follicle. Okay, one lobular artery here. So this is the reason, the high blood supply, high vascularity of the gland, because the artery divide into the lobular branches. These lobular branches then divide into the follicular branches and small branches from the capillary plexus around the follicles. And this is the reason here high blood supply gives rise to the production of the goiter. Okay, sometimes the high vascularity is there, so goiter may be produced here. Okay, so this is the arterial supply. What about the venous drainage? Okay, venous drainage. Look here, how the veins drains the blood from the. Now this venous drainage from the venous plexus, and this venous plexus is deep to the true capsule. Okay, first venous plexus is formed in the fibrous stroma, deep to the fibrous stroma in the gland, and then the veins start here, and these veins now do not follow the arteries, they have the independent drainage here. They are supplied by the three main veins, superior, middle and the inferior here. Okay, now superior thyroid vein comes from the upper side of the thyroid this lobe and passes towards the internal jugular vein. Okay, here, which runs along this superior this thyroid vein runs along the lateral border of the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle here, like this. Okay, this is the superior belly of the omohyoid. So the superior thyroid vein runs along the lateral border, outer border of the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle and enters into the internal jugular vein. Okay, so this is here. So this is the whole this is the superior belly. Okay, here. Now the middle thyroid vein. Middle thyroid vein comes from the middle part and passes along the inner border of the superior belly of the omohyoid muscle and enters into the internal jugular vein. Okay, here. So two veins, superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein enters directly into the internal jugular vein. Clear? Now this here, the inferior thyroid vein here. Inferior thyroid vein comes from the isthmus, okay, in the region of the isthmus here, here, and descends downward and enters into the left brachiocephalic vein here, because the left brachiocephalic vein crosses from the left to right side here. So this inferior thyroid vein descends downward and enters into the left brachiocephalic vein here. Okay. So the third vein, fourth vein, sometime at the base of the this is thyroid gland. This is the fourth vein, vein of the Kochar here. A small vein of the Kochar arises from the base of the thyroid gland and it runs laterally and enters into the internal jugular vein. Okay. So this is very important vein, because this vein is present. Okay, this may or may not be present. So this vein is present. Thyroid surgery. So what's happened? This thyroid vein, this vein of the Kochar may be accidentally cut. Okay, so we have to take care. First see this vein of the Kochar and tie the vein of the Kochar, and then we have to remove the thyroid gland. So this is the venous drainage of the thyroid gland. Now the lymphatic drainage. What about the lymphatic drainage? Lymphatic drainage drain the upper half and the lower half of the thyroid gland. Upper half of the thyroid gland drains into the superiorly. Okay, lymphatics. And there are the two group of the lymphatic. These are the pre-laryngeal group of the lymph node. Okay, these are the pre-laryngeal also. So isthmic part, okay, drains into the pre-laryngeal group of the lymph node, while the upper half of the lobe here, it drains into the jugulodigastric group of the lymph node. These are the jugulodigastric. Jugulodigastric, which is present along the digastric muscle here. This is present digastric muscle. This is okay. Here digastric muscle come here in this region. Okay, so this is jugulodigastric group of the lymph node present here and drains the upper half of the lobe. Okay, lower half of the lobe and the isthmus. Lower half of the lobe here, isthmus first here, drains into the midline, the pretracheal group of the lymph node. So these are the pretracheal group of the lymph node here. Okay, in the midline here. And laterally here, this half, lower half of the lobe drains into the vertical chain of the lymph nodes, which runs along the recurrent laryngeal nerve. This recurrent laryngeal nerve in ascends upward here. Along with that, there is a vertical chain of the lymph nodes are there, and these are now the recurrent group of the lymph node here. Recurrent group of the lymph nodes. Okay, here. So this is now. So this is these are the lymphatic drainage. What about the nerve supply? Nerve supply is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Parasympathetic supplied by the vagus nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve. but the supply is not clear. What is supply parasympathetic in this vagus nerve and the recurrent nerve? We are not sure. Okay, but the sympathetic is important. Sympathetic nerves have come from the superior, middle, and the inferior cervical ganglia. Okay, these now come from the superior, middle, and inferior cervical ganglia, and these now ascends upward. Okay, along the arteries, the inferior artery and the superior this thyroid artery, and supply the vasculature of the thyroid gland here. So vasoconstriction occur. Okay, vasculature. Another important is here. It is said these nerves, sympathetic nerves, also supply the thyroid lobule directly, independent of the TSH here. Okay, so there are the different receptors present in the thyroid lobule. Here, they are the TSH receptor or the adrenergic receptor. Adrenergic receptor. Okay, so the sympathetic nerve acts on the adrenergic receptor. It stimulates the thyroid lobule and the thyroid follicle to uptake the iodine, comes the iodide ion, then thyroid globulin is formed, then the synthesis of the thyroid hormone are there, and the release of the T3 and T4. This is all done by under the stimulation of the sympathetic activation. It is said this sympathetic activation acts for a short term. Okay, while the TSH acts as a long term phenomenon. Okay, so sympathetic also are responsible for the release of the T3 and T4, synthesis and storage of the thyroid globulin, as well as this nerves. Okay, here the TSH receptor also responsible for the applied aspect of this thyroid gland. Applied aspect thyroid gland, there is an enlargement of the thyroid gland occur, and this enlargement of the thyroid gland occur. This is known as the goiter. Okay, so enlargement of the thyroid occur, the swelling of the thyroid occur, known as the goiter, and this goiter may be here the hyperfunctioning. Means the thyroid gland may be hyperfunctions or the hypofunction. Hypofunction. Okay. Now, what is this hyperfunction? Hypofunction. Hyperfunction is known as the toxic goiter. Okay. Toxic goiter. It is known as hyperthyroidosis. Okay. Hyperthyroidosis, where the thyroid hormone are increased in large quantity. Okay, here increased amount of the thyroid hormone in the circulation. So when there were increased amount of thyroid hormone there in the blood, so what's happened? There is the tremors occur, the tachycardia is there, increased heart rate, okay, and increased metabolism. So maybe the diarrhea may be there, sweating, excessive sweating may be there here. So these are the influence of the effect of the hyperthyroidosis. Okay, now in the hyperthyroidosis what's happened? Initially the medical management is given, that the drugs are given, but these are the failed, drugs are failed when then thyroid surgery have to done. Thyroid surgery, most of the thyroid gland is removed except the posterior part of the thyroid gland, along where the superior parathyroid and inferior parathyroid gland is present, because the superior and inferior parathyroid gland is very important for the calcium metabolism here. Clear? So this is the whole of the thyroid gland is removed along with the true capsule except the posterior part. Clear? So this is the thyrotoxicosis. Okay, now the hypothyroidism means there is a decreased level of the thyroid hormone. So in which the myxedema and the cretinism occur. Okay, here. So the myxedema means the swelling of the feet occur here. So this is the response to the hypothyroidism. Now the last is the malignancy of the thyroid gland. In the malignancy, the hyperthyroid, sometimes what's happened, the thyroid gland may be increased. Okay, and this reaches towards posterior side. I told you the false capsule is thin along the posterior side in comparison to the anterior side. So the posteriorly there is a thin capsule. So whenever there is a thyroid swelling increases, it reaches posteriorly without noticing feature anteriorly. So it passes posteriorly. So it compresses the trachea or the esophagus, give rise to the symptom. So malignancy may occur without giving the swelling anterior. I think so. This is all about the thyroid gland. Okay, thank you.